Before 2007, mobile phones had tiny keyboards, small screens, and could barely browse the internet. Then everything changed. The first iPhone didn't just improve phones, it reinvented them. But how? Why did experts call it a failure before it even launched? And how did Steve Jobs convince stubborn wireless carriers to take a risk? In this video, we'll explore the secret history of the iPhone, from its controversial start to the moment it changed technology forever. If you've ever wondered how a simple touchscreen revolutionized the world, keep watching. In the early 2000s, mobile phones were very different from what we know today. Most phones had physical keyboards, small screens, and slow internet connections. People used devices like the BlackBerry for email or the Nokia for calls, but these phones had clear limits. Typing on a tiny keyboard was difficult, and browsing the web often took too long. Many people carried separate devices, a phone for calls, a PDA for email, and an iPod for music. The BlackBerry was popular with business users because it had a full keyboard. But even this design had problems. The keys were small, and typing long messages could be frustrating. Nokia phones had number pads instead of keyboards, which made texting even harder. Internet browsing on these devices was slow and often didn't work well. Maps were basic, and many phones couldn't display full web pages properly. Wireless carriers at the time didn't see a need for change. They made money from text messages and phone calls, so they preferred devices with keyboards. Many experts believed touchscreens wouldn't work because people were used to physical buttons. Carriers also didn't trust Apple, since the company had never made a phone before. They worried that a touchscreen would confuse customers and hurt sales. But Steve Jobs saw these problems differently. He noticed that people struggled with small keyboards and slow internet. He believed a touchscreen could solve these issues by making the phone simpler. Instead of multiple buttons, the iPhone would have just one. Instead of a tiny screen, it would have a large display for web browsing and videos. Jobs thought carriers were wrong to resist change. He saw an opportunity to make something better. The iPhone solved many of these problems by removing the keyboard completely. It used a touchscreen for typing, which meant the screen could be bigger. Internet browsing was faster, and the phone could display full websites properly. Maps, email, and music all worked on one device. This was a big change from the phones people were used to. But how did Apple convince people to take this risk? The company had to prove that a touchscreen could work better than a keyboard. They also had to show carriers that customers would want this new kind of phone. The next step was building the iPhone itself, a challenge that would test Apple's engineers in ways they never expected. Apple's team faced serious challenges when they started working on the iPhone. Many people in the tech industry didn't believe a touchscreen phone could work. The project involved key people like Tony Fadell, who helped develop the iPod, and Jony Ive, Apple's design chief. Their goal was to create something completely different from existing phones, a device that could make calls, play music, and browse the internet with just a touchscreen. The engineering team struggled to make the technology work. Multi-touch, which allowed users to pinch and zoom, was especially difficult to perfect. Early versions of the iPhone frequently crashed during demos. The software team had to rewrite large parts of the operating system to make it stable. Jobs pushed the team relentlessly, demanding that every detail be perfect before the phone could launch. Apple built several prototypes before settling on the final design. One early version looked more like an iPod with a click wheel that could make calls. Another prototype had a plastic screen that scratched too easily. The team eventually decided on a single home button with a large glass screen, which was risky because no other phone had tried this before. The company kept the iPhone project secret, even from most Apple employees. Only a small group knew what they were building. When workers asked about the project, they were told it was a new version of the iPod. This secrecy helped prevent leaks about the phone before its official announcement. Jobs faced another challenge with wireless carriers. At first, carriers like Verizon didn't want to sell the iPhone. They worried about giving Apple too much control and didn't think customers would pay $599 for a phone. Jobs convinced them by showing how the iPhone could do much more than regular phones. He demonstrated features like visual voicemail and proper web browsing, which no other phone could offer at the time. The final version of the iPhone combined 3 devices into one: an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. It ran a version of OS X, Apple's computer operating system, which made it much more powerful than other phones. Safari allowed proper web browsing, and the built-in YouTube app made watching videos easy. The touchscreen keyboard, which many doubted would work, actually made typing faster than on small physical keyboards. After months of development, the iPhone was ready for launch. But no one knew for sure how people would react to such a different kind of phone. Would customers really pay hundreds of dollars for a device without a keyboard? Would they trust a touchscreen for typing messages and emails? The answers to these questions would come when Jobs revealed the iPhone to the world in January 2007. On January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone at Macworld in San Francisco. He started by saying they were launching 3 products: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communicator. Then he revealed these were all one device. The crowd reacted with surprise when he demonstrated how the touchscreen worked. Jobs showed how you could scroll through contacts with a finger swipe, zoom in and out of photos with a pinch, and listen to voicemails in any order with visual voicemail. These features looked simple, but were unlike anything other phones could do. Many critics didn't believe the iPhone would succeed. Some called it just a toy that wouldn't appeal to business users. Others said the $499 price was too high compared to regular phones. A common complaint was that the touchscreen keyboard wouldn't work as well as physical keys. One tech columnist wrote that the iPhone was nothing more than a luxury bauble that would only appeal to a small group of Apple fans. Wireless carriers remained skeptical too. At first, only AT&T agreed to sell it in the US. But when the iPhone went on sale in June 2007, people lined up overnight to buy it. Apple sold 270,000 iPhones in the first 30 hours. Within 74 days, they reached 1 million sales. The touchscreen turned out to be easier to use than critics thought. People especially liked browsing real websites instead of mobile versions, and the built-in YouTube app made watching videos simple. The Maps app changed how people navigated cities, replacing standalone GPS devices. Other phone makers quickly realized they needed to change their designs. Within months, companies like Samsung and HTC started working on touchscreen phones to compete. BlackBerry tried to dismiss the iPhone at first, but later admitted they were wrong. By 2008, it was clear smartphones would all move toward the iPhone's design. Apple updated the phone each year with new features like the App Store, which let developers create programs for the iPhone. A year after launch, the iPhone had already changed how people used phones. Instead of just calls and texts, people used them for email, maps, music, and web browsing all the time. Businesses started developing mobile versions of their websites. The success also transformed Apple. The iPhone quickly became their most important product, bringing in more money than Mac computers. It showed that people would pay more for a well-designed device that combined multiple functions. This success raised new questions. How would Apple handle being the market leader? Would other companies catch up? And what would this mean for industries like cameras, music players, and GPS devices that the iPhone started replacing? The smartphone revolution was just beginning, but one thing was clear. The iPhone had already changed expectations for what a phone should be. The iPhone changed more than just phones. It changed daily life for over 1 billion people. It solved problems we didn't know we had, like struggling with tiny keyboards or carrying separate devices for music and email. Before 2007, no one imagined checking maps, watching videos, or browsing the web on a phone would become normal. The iPhone made technology simpler and more personal. Now think about this. What will be the next revolution like the iPhone? Will it be glasses that replace phones, or something completely different? The best innovations often solve problems we don't even notice yet.